And actually, I'm just thinking it's Independence Day today, but were we really independent? 75 years ago is the question, right? Because our minds, a lot of people's minds, are still colonized.
Yeah.
And I think when you talk about Utkwanti, I guess you're saying the first thing we need to do is recondition our minds and decolonize our minds, and then be able to go through this process of evolution and understanding and rediscover our own culture, right? And see where that fits in. But there will be lots of people saying, why? Why do we need to do this? Because
Mm.
they're so into it. So I think that first idea of giving the reasons why, and um, letting people understand the misconceptions. And I think this is why people have that block sometimes of wanting to know further. They're happy as they are. They're happy with their colonized minds, right? um, but but there's so many misconceptions attached to them. So I think it's really important for people to really engage and understand that what they know and what is the truth isn't really what they think is the truth isn't really the truth of the matter. So,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about some of the misconceptions that you feel the invaders or colonizers have brought to the today mind that we have, and the conditions that we a lot of people have, and that we need to break through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, I think our minds are still colonized. Intellectually, we're completely still colonized. Um, what that means is that we have an inferiority complex. Um, Everything that is Indic, everything that is authentically originating from or coming from the Bharatiya civilization is somehow considered less than or other than. And I'll give you a very I'll give you an example of this. So very often, right, when you go for a holiday or vacation somewhere in India in a group of people, and it's a particularly picturesque or beautiful place that you arrive at, you will almost always hear this. You will almost always hear somebody say, "Who doesn't feel like we're in India, does it?" Um, can you imagine that level of inferiority complex that we have? That the highest compliment you can pay to your own country is that you think it's not your own country. And these are not non-Indians saying this. It's understandable the first time in India. Oh, it doesn't feel like what people said India would be, or what I saw in Slumdog Millionaire. That's understandable. Indians themselves, and Indians who genuinely love their country and do a lot for their country, but even they have just this subconscious inferiority complex that just prevents them from understanding so naturally that what we have may be better, what we have may be superior. Even if it's not superior, it is mine. It is the heritage and tradition that I have been born into. Um, every generation of my ancestors has, at some point or the other, at least the last 8, 10 generations at least, have had to make a decision between sticking to their civilizational identity, or the or standing by their dharma, being true to their dharma, or suffering incredible losses. And they have chosen in that situation to stand by their dharma. They has got, and they, all generations of our ancestors could not be very could not have done this so ignorantly, right? There's had to be something there that they saw that was of tremendous value, that they thought it was important for the legacy to have for their offspring, and then the overall Indian legacy to be born into and to have access to. That in itself should be enough for us to spark our curiosities and say, okay, what is it about Indian culture, and what is it about in the Bharatiya identity or the Indic identity that is so unique and valuable? um, because if we And it's in our best interest, honestly. Like, forget, even if we don't consider any of these, it is in our best interest when we think we are better than, or we think we are at least on par with anybody else in the world. We need to start taking pride in ourselves. We need to start taking pride in our heritage, in our knowledge systems, and in our ancestors, and in the history that we've been born into. It is so unfortunate when I hear things like that, and it just makes me, I don't know whether to laugh or cry, because it is so sad, but it is also hilarious that, and if I, just look at the picture that we're seeing. Somebody who has been born into the oldest civilization of the world, looks at nature or looks at something about their civilization, and then automatically, intuitively thinks, oh, this can't be ours. And it is so sad that we're at that state. um, and that's what I mean by intellectual colonization. It manifests as a deep, deep inferiority complex, which we need to get rid of. Our academic sources for our history are not written by Indians. They are mostly, or a lot of our scholarship is just written by people in the West. Nothing wrong with that, but we need Indic scholarship as well. We need scholarship from people who actually have lived and breathed Bharat and know and understand what Bharat is. Only then can you give an authentic analysis of Bharatiya culture. If you've not understood, lived, and truly imbibed Bharatiya culture, how can you then go and write PhD theses on it? It is, for me, it's almost hysterical that that actually happens. And they don't just and we it's not just written. Indians ourselves, we accept it as this is some great bona fide document that has come from a genius, who obviously knows everything. And why and how do they know everything? Well, they belong to, I guess, a semi well reputed university in America, and therefore obviously they know it. Whereas our shastras, people from maybe a Ved Pathshala or something, who have studied the Vedas in so much in depth, they couldn't possibly know, right? They wouldn't have any idea about it. So that, how much emphasis we give to anything that is non-Indic for understanding Indic matters, that needs to change. That entire premise needs to go, because it's helping nobody. It's certainly not helping us. It's not even helping anybody else. It's a simple thing. If I want to understand something authentically, I first need to be in it, understand it, and know it first. I can't understand it completely if I'm outside of the system. There is an advantage. There is, yeah, there's some advantage to sort of like a independent third eye, but the third eye, like third person kind of perspective, but that can't be the only perspective. And that certainly can't take precedence over the perspective of somebody who has that wealth of experience and knowledge living within within the system and the framework that is being studied.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.